My name is Richard Mireles, and I want to welcome you to the Prison Post. This is your podcast for conversations surrounding the need to reform prisons from the perspective of formerly incarcerated people, community members, and leaders in the restorative justice movement. The Prison Post will feature an episode every Wednesday with people who are in the fight to restore lives and heal communities. And we're back. Welcome to the Prison Post. My name is Richard Mireles. This is my co-host, the always effervescent Jason Bryant.
Effervescent. Hello, everyone. I like that word.
Yep. Great. Always a smile.
Yes,
Love to see you smile. Yeah, most definitely. And we have our guest with us as promised. We're so grateful that Justin Chung is joining us, and it's good to see you, Justin. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long while.
Yeah. Last time I see you were wearing a similar white T-shirt, but you didn't have that background.
Yeah, and I was balling you up.
Oh, okay.
We're going to basketball already?
Straight to sports.
All right. We can tell that story.
Is it true?
Most definitely.
Is it true?
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm 43. There's my victim story. I'm 43. Justin's 31 today. Happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So by the time I met him, how many years ago, Justin? Maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago? 7 years ago?
About 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah, he was still in his early 20s. And when I was in my early 20s, I had the nickname Mad Handles. I had some dribbles on mine. And by the time he met me, I was in the late 30s and had no dribbles.
Yeah.
And we just called
some moves, though.
A little bit.
Yeah.
So he was
out, huh?
So I still thought I had a little game. This youngster came on the court and was balling me up. So I went into bully mode and try to use my 210 pounds.
It
didn't work.
I think you got fouled out though for playing in the league.
Justin, aren't you you're like almost a whole foot taller than Rich, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I try to out rebound him. He just keeps pushing me and stuff. So
yeah, he's got the hedgehog thing going.
I remember he had that green jersey on in the 5A league.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, the old green jersey. Played for the Clippers and a few other teams, and that's when the Clippers were not good, by the way.
Right. That's right.
Oh man, it's good to see you, Justin.
Likewise, good to see you both.
We also saw him on the softball field too.
Oh yeah.
That's Sharknado right there for a little bit.
That's a different story. Represent.
Brother. And we know you could have always came over to Soldiers for Christ, but
you could have had the taste of championship. That's what you want to say.
Yeah, I can't talk about that one though. You guys own the field with that, but
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We always try to stay diverse, so there was always room for you, but Sharknado was your team.
I just want some playing time. That's all.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I barely got playing time, so no. What are you gonna do today for your birthday?
Today, I'm gonna go work out, eat with some friends. I met some good friends at church since I've been out. Just eat good. Eat some boiling crab to go and eat till we just pass out.
Yeah. Let me ask this. I want to ask him a question because my son's birthday is coming up on the 11th of January, and it's so close to Christmas. One of my fears, and it's already happening. Only his second birthday, his second Christmas, and it's already happening that people are like, "Here's your Christmas present and your birthday present."
Oh yeah,
you get that too.
Every time. Even yesterday at church, they're like, "Here's your present, your birthday and your Christmas." I was like, "Oh, thank you."
Got to be grateful though. Regardless.
Yeah, definitely.
You could definitely be grateful for the biggest Christmas present, which is your freedom. How long have you been free now?
I've been free 6 months.
That's
6
great.
Months.
Yeah, Justin. I'll share a little bit with our guests about you. Justin was born in 1989. I think he's the youngest guest we've ever had on.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Hugo might look a little younger, but he's definitely not.
Yeah.
Justin, you came to the United States when you were 2 years old. Was a latchkey kid, started down the wrong path as a teenager, which culminated with a life sentence. At the age of 16 years old, incarcerated, and ended up being sentenced to 82 years to life. However, I'm a very fortunate man. I know that you would say by the grace of God that you were commuted by the governor after 14 long years. And you're able to eventually be set free. And there's a lot of stories in the middle of that we'd like to touch on today, but I just want to officially welcome you to the Prison Post.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
For sure. So go ahead, Jason.
Oh, with our roundtable question? I got a roundtable question. It's for all three of us. We can all participate in this. Because I was reflecting the other day, and the question for all three of us, I'll go first, is what were you doing this time last year?
This time last year?
Yeah.
I'll start. I was hanging out with the brothers, eating burritos. My birthday, so the brothers in Charlie Wing, they all cooked us burritos, and we fellowshipped. We went to the night yard, and just hung out. And they sent me some Christmas cards, so that was pretty neat.
That's pretty cool.
This time last year for me, I was on the level 2 yard of CTF Soledad, and I was pretty stressed out. I knew I was about to miss my oldest son's first Christmas and his first birthday. And I had just found out that my wife was pregnant with our second son. So, I was, going through my own emotional distress at the upcoming holidays and celebrations that I wouldn't be there for. So it feels like a lifetime ago. I mean, I've only been out almost 9 months now, and it just feels so long ago. But I can remember that last year, this time I was in a pretty low and dark place. Rich,
I remember some of those phone calls, Jay, and it was a helpless feeling to hear my brother, who's, your hands are tied, and you want to come home to your kids. And last night, me and Jason, I got to go to his house together with some of my family, and we had dinner together. And Jason has a nice Christmas tree with a train track running around it, and both his kids, and we had dinner, and then we went driving around looking at Christmas lights, and he was driving and I was driving. And these are the times in our 20 years and 41 years of prison combined that we only imagined. You remember walking the track in Soledad and just talking about these times. And now we're actually getting to live them. And it's humbling. I think that we're so focused on the present and the future that we don't stop and think sometimes about the past and all those years in there. And I could tell you that last year, this time for me, I was spending my first Christmas with my mom and my sister and my stepdad and my nieces and nephews and my brother and his wife. And I don't think that I fully got into the Christmas spirit yet. I mean, I was happy and I was blessed to be home, but I didn't reconnect myself emotionally yet to Christmas. And that wasn't until this year. I mean, a lot of my early childhood stories about Christmas I don't really remember too many of them. And the ones I do, they weren't too favorable. But this year I was able to tap into the meaning and get connected and get festive and appreciate the lights and the sounds and the music and the people. And, it's just like a second chance at Thanksgiving of being grateful. So I just received permission earlier to travel to my mom's for Christmas. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to go there for the day this year with a new perspective. Now it's my second one, and I'm coming to a place where I understand who I am out here. I missed all of my 20s and all of my 30s inside, and it's a lot different going to spending your nights in a concrete cell. And a lot of times this time of the year we go to the yard expecting to call our family. And it's the one time of the year, that the phones are down and they're expecting that call and we want to call and we can't call. And so, and then like you said about the burritos, like people don't get it out here, for 20 years, that was our highlight. People might be like, burritos, what's the big deal with burritos? But burritos is the best as it gets in prison food, and sodas and some chips and getting around some people that you love and that love you. So, and it's good to catch you around this time of the year, Justin, not only around Christmas, but on your birthday.
Yeah, that's a double whammy.
Yeah, 2 gifts in one.
Yeah, 2 gifts for sure.
I'm very used to that. That's beautiful.
Hey, I'm November 30th, and people do that to me.
Yeah.
So close. It's not that close. It's like 26 days.
Yeah, that's wrong. They did you wrong.
No, I'm grateful now, but what I want to say, Justin, is you're now our 3rd guest. I had the privilege of doing a podcast with you while you were still in Soledad, and you came out to the yard time after time, and I think we recorded 15-minute phone calls, and we were able to get those edited down and to tell your story. In fact, we launched those episodes 2 weeks ago on the Prison Post across social media. For our guests who are listening, if you want to hear Justin's full life story, it's on our bonus episodes, the Prison Post bonus episodes 5, 6, and 7. It's on Apple iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and any other major podcasting platform. And so we were able to interview you, and now you're the 3rd guest. Our first was James Willock. Our first was Christopher Gooden. You know him, and you also know James Willock. We were able to have him inside the studio. We'd normally be in the studio right now, and because of COVID and different conditions, we're recording the podcast from our homes. And so you're the 3rd one that we're able to now see free and be able to look at you without just hearing that you're receiving a call from Global Telling, right?
You have 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's great to see you, brother. I love you. I miss you. I'm very proud of you. I know about some of the things that you're doing today. We've talked on the phone several times and in social media. Actually, your audio podcast had more listeners than any of our product podcasts across the board for the audio only. And so you have a really emotionally moving and powerful story. The love that you have for your mother is unique. And I think a lot of moms, my mom was listening to the episodes, and she said she could only finish about 1.5 because all those old memories were coming back for her, and she was getting emotional and she remembered what it's like. But I said, well, Mom, he's free now. Yeah, I know, but I can't hear no more. So she's like one of our biggest fans. And so how have you been, Justin?
I've been good. Definitely it beats prison just to be out, but I still have like the ice hole hovering over me. So it's a different type of obstacle. I'm still dealing with that. I have to periodically check in. Currently, I have an ankle monitor on, so I have a lot of restrictions. So I'm dealing with that, and I've been out 6 months, and it definitely was stressful. A lot of obstacles, but putting things into perspective, I'm just gonna enjoy the moment that I'm out here, with my family, with my friends, with church, and literally taking one day at a time still. And literally enjoying every day as it comes and making the most of it.
Now, do they provide you with any type of services, reentry services or anything? No.
ICE is vicious. They pretty much just want you out of the country. Okay. I have to stay home certain days to check in. I got to wait for a phone call. I have to check in physically, periodically, and technically, I can't even work. I have to go through the whole process of getting a work permit, which can take up to 4 to 6 months.
Right.
And you have to pay about $400 or $500 for a work permit each year. So it is vicious.
So let me ask this: if you didn't have your family's incredible support, what would they essentially be doing with you, or what would you be able to do?
Nothing. I would pretty much, it's a sitting and waiting game. Yeah. So a lot of people do wait inside ICE facilities and wait. Right. And sometimes they're better off because they provide you with housing and food and everything. Mm-hmm. I'm fortunate to have that kind of support from my family. But other than that, there's essentially nothing you can do except to just wait on them.
Justin, how were you able to, would you explain the process? And we'll go back to a little bit more of your story earlier, and let's spend some time here with your current immigration hold. How were you, what is the process there once you were released? Were you released immediately to freedom, or did you have to go to a holding center? Were you bailed out? You know, what, describe for us and our audience, because I know that I'm on a board of commutations and pardons with various groups, and I know that me and you have talked about one of them with the Asian Law Caucus, and there are some people that have that opportunity to get pardoned, whether after being found suitable or being commuted, and having to go back to countries like maybe Vietnam or Cambodia, and they're pardoned and allowed to stay. So first of all, what was the process? And then we'll talk about that after.
So I do want to kind of backtrack a little bit, because I did get out through an appeal that I won in court, and it was last minute notice. When I got the letter in the mail, it said immediate release, and 2 days later they processed me out. And as soon as I got released, ICE agents were waiting for me, and they detained me, and I was transferred to their facility in Stockton, and then went to Bakersfield. And basically, when you go to ICE, you're pending deportation, or you can choose to fight it. But because of the gravity of my case, they said that I don't even see a judge. I have an administrative removal order, and I'm pending deportation. So pretty much I was just waiting to see what was going to happen. But the timing of everything, when I ended up in Mesa Verde, that's in Bakersfield, they had a COVID outbreak. And prior to me coming, one person had died. They didn't say why, but there was a big lawsuit going on. So because of that, they were accepting bail applications. And I was just in the right place at the right time, because only 2 facilities were accepting bail applications. And through talking to some people, I talked to some lawyers, and everything just panned out perfectly. So I was able to submit my bail application. And during that time, it was when the protests were going on. You guys remember with the George Floyd and the riots, it was crazy. And the bail application, I only had about till like 3 days to apply, and then the judge wasn't taking anything. But because of the protests, they extended it for several more days, and that gave me time to apply. And then that just told me, like, man, like everything's working out in my favor, and by faith, I just knew it was going to get granted. So given that little short time of span, and for me, I believe it was the sovereignty of God allowing me to be at that place. And I was only in ICE for 10 days. And then the judge granted it and ordered me release on bond through ankle monitor. So I've been out 6 months pending deportation right now.
And I know that it goes without saying that you prefer to stay in the United States. Is there anything that you can do to stay legally?
Legally, there's so many complications with ICE because you're dealing with the federal government. And even if I were to get a pardon, it doesn't guarantee my stay. It might allow me to reopen up my case before an immigration judge, and then they could decide based on other merits or other grounds. It's definitely a long shot, but I've been here since I was 2 years old. This is all I know. This is my home, and I want to do everything I can to fight to stay with my family.
I know that you started a letters of support and petitions, getting those together. And I know that I submitted one myself. And what about people watching the show and who'd like to support you? And I think this is an area that hasn't really been touched too much on people having to go back and who really never knew that land. I mean, there's been, of course, conversations about it in politics, but what could the petitions do, and what are your plans on who to submit them to?
So I think from talking with different lawyers and how to strategize, to collect letters from influential people in politics, through senates or assembly members or just getting their support, for them to know what kind of person I am, that I'll be able to bring more value here than rather in Korea. Because I've been here all my life. I've been involved with gangs and prison. I know I can talk to people like me, people that look like me. I know there's a lot of advocates in the Hispanic or the Black community, but not so much in my community, specifically the Korean community. And I know I could bring so much more value to that area of ministry or work. But definitely, I've been collecting support letters from different organizations like you guys, nonprofit, or churches, or even different attorneys working with commutations and pardons. But I've been doing my part to network and see anybody that's willing to support me while I petition to the governor.
Wow. Justin, now, worst case scenario, your efforts fail and you're sent back to South Korea. What are your thoughts and what are your plans in that circumstance?
Worst case scenario, I would have to enlist in the army. It's mandatory in South Korea, which is not a bad thing because I know there's a lot of opportunities and resources. But at this point in my life, I just want to get my life started. I don't want to go back to an institution and be governed by authority. It's not a bad thing. I believe it'll teach me a lot more discipline and definitely a lot more resources for sure, career-wise too. But at this point in my life, I just want to just be free. I want to do what I want to do. I want to enjoy life and not be subjected to any of those kind of things.
Would there be any option or opportunity if the worst case scenario played out for you to return to the States over a period of time? Could you apply for citizenship, or is that no longer an option because of the felony?
Yeah, that's no longer an option because of the felony.
Mm. Okay.
What are some of your, when you think about it at night, and I know you've come to a place of peace and you're not going to live your life with enjoy the moment and the time you have with your family and fight as hard as you can. But should you when you do have those types of thoughts, what are some of your fears about going there?
I think my initial fear is because I've heard stories where ICE would just come pick you up without even notice. Like today, I could be enjoying my birthday, and then all of a sudden, ICE will come, or they'll tell me to check in somewhere and detain me. So I have that fear sometimes, but I don't let those thoughts play in my head. I know it might not even be logical, but I know it has happened to people. But at this point in my life, is if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So I'm just gonna enjoy this time I have with my family and make it the most of it. I want to bring so much impact to the people around me, and leave a lasting impression the short amount of time that I do have. So that's how I've been living my life day to day, every day.
Would you have family support there?
I do have an aunt there. She's been visiting me every year since I've been in prison. So I do have her support, but the rest of her family doesn't know I've been incarcerated because of the culture and the shame that comes along with it.
Mm.
So
that's another thing is would you share a little bit with us as far as the perspective of incarceration in South Korea?
It's still very shameful. Even tattoos, like today in our culture, tattoos are normalized, but in Korea is perceived as you're a gang member or somebody very low. So just the fact that I've been in a gang, I've been to prison, then I'm ostracized. Even here, I feel the tension with some of my family members here. Some of them want nothing to do with me because I've been to prison, I've been in a gang, and some of them don't reach out at all, even through the holidays, but I have to remind myself that I do have other family that still love me and still care for me.
Something I think is interesting, and not to diminish or downplay our personal responsibility, for the choices that we make and the crimes that were committed and the harm that we caused. But I think it is interesting and instructive about the way our society is built. If you go overseas, whether you're going to some countries in Africa or Europe, the society itself takes a large part of responsibility in creating a cultural context where criminal behavior is almost normalized or accepted. But here in the US, it's like, if you commit a crime, then you got to be punished. It's not a conversation of like, how did we create an atmosphere where this type of behavior was somehow seemed acceptable to people, right? So just taking that into account, thinking about some of the things we watch on TV, the music that young people are exposed to, is it fair to say that in some ways, Justin, when you were young, growing up in the United States of America, that there was an influence of some sort that had some impact on your thinking about what it meant to be cool or what it meant to be tough?
Oh yeah, definitely. Growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, Tupac was a big thing, Biggie, Brother Lynch. And yeah, it was all about drinking, smoking, straight West Coasting, West Side, like that kind of hip hop culture. And it was cool. Everybody, even, my friends, the girlfriends, everybody was into that. And for me, I took it to another level. I really want to, prove myself, but I realized in the end, like, it's all a front. It's a facade.
Let's go back there and because some of our subscribers and listeners, they're wondering, here's this guy. He looks like a pretty clean cut kid. He's maybe he doesn't look like a gang member, whatever that looks like. But your parents came here for a better life. How did you initially start going down that path, Justin?
Even as a youngster, we would do stuff like go body shots, meaning we'll fight without gloves, just body blows only, no headshots. And then the older kids, they'll smoke cigarettes, they'll have alcohol, and we looked up to them, and they would go body blows too. And sometimes they would challenge me, hey, like, little homie, let's go, let's box. And just engaging in that type of behavior, it felt good, that I would be able to step up to the older guys, and all that stuff was condoned. And when I would stand my ground and they'll be like, man, good job, like you can handle your own. And then amongst my friends, I was looked up to, and I want to keep building that reputation. And just seeing what the older guys did or how other gang members behaved, I followed that.
Well, I think as a follow-up to what Jason shared, what I'm asking is, like, when did you first start getting attracted to that? Was it from that hip hop culture, from listening to the music and then seeking that out? Like, I could kind of remember for myself, I started being rebellious in the 6th grade. I saw the 8th graders at the bus stop smoking weed. I didn't feel that acceptance, affection, and affirmation at home. My mom was recently married. I wanted to hate her husband. And so I said, well, I'm gonna go get it somewhere else. So I started. I can distinctly remember, and maybe it's not the same for everybody, but I can distinctly remember I'm gonna go down this path, and I'm gonna go hang out with these guys, and I'm gonna do what I want to do when I want to do it.
Yeah, for me, it started in junior high at church. So I met those group of friends from different cities, and they were already smoking cigarettes. And they had learned it from other kids, but it looked so cool. They had the popularity, the girls were around them. So I wanted to be around them too. So when I started hanging out with them and then, getting involved with cigarettes, alcohol, and then even to, going boxing, I just wanted more. But I got attracted to that at first when I started going to church.
Most people would think going to church, that's not where you find it at.
No, that'd be the opposite, right?
Yeah. So it was a big church. It was a mega church.
Right. Yeah. So I just think that's interesting because I imagine in other cultures, whether it's that they are more cautious about like what mainstream media or entertainment they're allowing the viewing public to watch, or whatever. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's just the case that when someone is young and they see them going down the wrong path, there's systems in place to help them correct course. Whereas for so many, it seems black, brown, and yellow communities, it's like, no, just let them do what they do, because when they go to prison, it's a punishment model anyway, and we can continue this machine of us getting paid off of a perpetuation of slavery in some ways. So I don't know. That's kind of a bigger conversation. I'm just curious because, for many returning citizens who have what we call American privilege, like we don't have a lot of the concerns and the issues that you're facing right now. There's a lot of services that are available to us, particularly for people who are looking for them, whether we're talking about housing, counseling. Now, that doesn't mean they're integrated or that they're really great, but at least they're there. There's places you can go to for some type of help, but it doesn't sound like you're getting any of that. You're just literally in a holding pattern, waiting for them to rip you out of your family's home and take you back to a country that you know very little, if nothing, about.
Yeah. So even when I got paroled, nobody was notified. None of my parole agents. So when I checked in with them, they were like, man, like we didn't get notice of you. We didn't get any paperwork. I checked into my transitional home. Should I check in? Nobody knew I was gonna show up. But I did have a parole agent say, look, you're pending deportation and you're gonna check in with ICE in a couple of weeks. Just stay at your mom's for now and see what happens. So initially I thought I was gonna get deported within weeks. And then when I did check in, they told me to come back in November, which is about 3-4 months later. And my parole officer arranged it in a way where I could stay with my mom for those several months. And then when I did check in November last month, they told me to come back in May. So it's just a waiting game. And I wasn't able to go to a transitional home and get those resources, but just be with my family, which is great. Don't get me wrong, but it's just the feeling of unknown, being in a limbo. What's gonna happen? So I feel like I'm literally just waiting and waiting and waiting.
So I remember speaking about your family and kind of being in limbo. I remember that this isn't the first time. I mean, you had some disappointments with your commutation initially. Would you share a little bit, not only of the disappointment that you suffered, but kind of how your family took it, and then kind of dovetail that into how they're taking this now, the prospect of you being deported?
Yeah, so I was granted commutation in 2018, right before Thanksgiving by Governor Brown. And then 6 months later, I went to the parole board. I was granted parole. And then 4 or 5 months later, when Governor Newsom came into office, he reversed my parole. So during that time, it was very confusing. I didn't understand why he reversed my parole at that time. The commissioners, they commended me. They commended me on my growth, my maturity. They told me that I was a model inmate, that usually people that come in young, they get sucked into the gang, the politics, but somehow I was able to deviate from all that. So they commended me on all that. And when I got the governor's reversal, I remember it was September 11th, 2019. And, by that time, I'm ready to go home. I'm tired of prison. I'm tired of working at PIA, at sweatshop. I'm just tired. So when the counselor called me to sign my paperwork or give me some paperwork, I was thinking I'm going to sign and go home. So when I got that news, it felt like I received a life sentence again. And I felt like a ton of bricks just hit me, and I had to sit down. And I checked in with my work, and I told my supervisors, I can't work. I can't work today. I gotta go back to the cell and just process everything. And I was just thinking about how I'm gonna break the news to my family. At this time, they're all excited, waiting for me to come home. My mom's going shopping, buying me shoes and socks at Costco. And I finally wait till the end of the day, very last phone call, which is 8:45 at night. And I finally call her, and my mom's excited. She's like, should I buy you this? Should I buy you Adidas? Or should I just wait for you to come home? And at that point, like, I had no words to say. I couldn't even speak. I just broke down, and just tears were coming out of my nose, my eyes, everywhere. And it was embarrassing, but I was devastated. And when I finally broke the news to my mom, and she was worried, like, what does that mean? Does that mean you took away your commutation too? And I told her, no, I'm rescheduled to go back to the parole board in 18 months. And she was the one comforting me and strengthening me. We did it once, we'll do it again. It's hard, but we'll go through it. And she said, I'm going to visit you that following week, that was a Wednesday when I got the news. And she visited me that Saturday. She just didn't make an appointment and just drove 5 hours, make sure I was all right. And then the following weekend, my grandma and my aunt from Korea, they came. They visited me to make sure I was all right. And my pastor came the following week after that to make sure I was all right with his wife. And I had a lot of support to get me through it. And it definitely was devastating. And when I look everything back in hindsight, it was a growing moment. It was a growing pain. It was a time of maturity, resilience. And even when I go through with this ICE situation, I can't help but to think that God has something bigger for me, that God is going to use me on a bigger platform. So whenever I go through these setbacks and obstacles, I have to welcome it. This is where you grow in strength. So let's go, let's bring it,
I mean, I can only imagine that, the incredible support and love from your family is continuing during this difficult time. But what are some of the things they say to you, or some of the things that they share with you about this possibility of, you maybe being deported to another country?
So my mom is already planning to move out there to Korea with me. And I tell her, you don't have to do all that, because if she does go to Korea, she wouldn't be able to work because I don't know if it's law in Korea, but after a certain age in Korea, you're not allowed to work unless you're like a business owner or CEO. And my mom is already at that age in her late 50s. So I tell her just to save up much money as you can right now. You don't have to move out there with me, but eventually I'm pretty sure she is. So in the back of her mind, she's already planning for something like that.
Now, are you her only child?
Yeah, I'm the only child.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I'm an only child too by my mom. So
yeah,
I have some understanding of that amazing love.
Yeah. That's definitely a common denominator here, the love of our moms and the empathy. No, my mom, she visited me like once every 6-7 weeks. And for them to come and visit you in that way, after that reversal, 3 weeks in a row, that shows a lot of empathy there, a lot of love. And even your mom, I'm sure she of course she has her own life, but you're her life. And and that's her choice to go and see her son the rest of her days. And I think that's a beautiful thing, man. Talk about the support. A lot of our listeners are mothers. We saw a mother of a young man who's 27 years old and incarcerated right now with 10 years to go, a few weekends ago. And talk about how the support of your mom helped you get through those tough days or those 14 years and what it meant to you.
Man, it's only because of our mothers that we are trying to do good. We are trying to make it home. And, when you come into prison young, you're very susceptible to peer pressure, or even when somebody belittles you or degrades you. I've been in a situation where people tested me and got in my face, but I just kept thinking about my mom. Like, I started off in Pelican Bay, and there was a situation that it got very confrontational, but all I kept thinking was my mom. I need to at least make it down to a lower level. I need to at least, be closer down south. So, my mom always kept me in check. She always wrote me. She always accepted my phone calls and always visited me. And in the beginning of my incarceration, I was susceptible. I wanted to get tattoos and I wanted to be in that lifestyle too. But because my mom's constant checking in, like, I can't get no tattoos. She's going to yell at me. She's going to probably hit me. So all that accountability, it kept me in check. And I wanted to at least make it down to a lower level. So if I'm going to just back down and walk away and be called a sissy or somebody like a coward, then I was willing to face that for my mother.
Yeah. Justin, so when you found out about the reversal, and I remember on the prison, on the calls, what I called you from when you were still on the inside, and you talked about how hard, and you shared it right now, how hard it was for you to have that conversation with your mom. And I love her line, if we did it once, we'll do it again. And then, you were prepared for that. I remember you calling me on the phone and going through that dark night of the soul and being discouraged and wondering, what is God doing in this? Like, why is this happening? But eventually, you filed an appeal. And what happened after that? And when did she find out that you were going to be released, or that you were released?
So when I got the governor's reversal, I immediately called my lawyer and told him what happened. And he was like, Justin, don't play. That's not even funny. But I was like, I wish I was. And I sent him the letter. So upon reading that letter, he was like, Justin, the reasonings for this wasn't just. It wasn't constitutional. We're going to file an appeal. And at that moment, I told my lawyer, hold on, like, no, we're talking about the governor of California. Like, I don't want to rub him the wrong way. If he wants me to go back to the parole board, I'll go back to the parole board. But man, like, each day was so painfully slow. And 18 months, I was like, man, 18 months. So after about a week or two, I called my lawyer back and said, you know what, let's do this. This is just painful. And my lawyer said, look, I've already drafted the motion. I've already talked to several lawyers, and we have a strong case. And within a month, he had already filed. So the process went pretty quickly. And as it took about, altogether, it took about 7-8 months. I got the governor's reversal in September, and I was going through those conversations with Jason as well. Like, my appeal is in motion. This is what I'm looking forward to. The superior judge in LA granted an order to show cause. So it's looking good. And then in April, that's when I got a letter from the judge saying that he vacated the governor's reversal and reinstated the board's approval. And then shortly after that, it was granted immediate release. But I do want to add that during that time period, the governor did have a chance to appeal the court's decision, and the governor chose not to. So that gave me a lot of hope. And then immediately after that, I was released from CDC.
Well, once you were actually talk about the day that you were actually got to hug your mom outside of the gates or walls, or see family and go home. What was your experience?
And I kind of want to backtrack to when I left Soledad, because when I did get that immediate release, by that time I was transferred to a level 1, and I didn't have I wasn't able to talk to my friends from a level 2. But the day I went to R&R that morning, a lot of my friends showed up, including James Willock. And I remember he just hugged me like, I love you, bro. I love you. I'm going to see you out there soon. And that it felt so good that all my brothers, all my friends, they were there to support me. There's like 15 of them in R&R. And it felt so surreal. And that was during the COVID situation. So I don't even know how they got out. Some of them were like snuck out or were in education. Some of them worked in the medical. So, but it was great to see them. And as soon as I left CDC and went to ICE, I was like, man, at least I'm out of CDC. Like, CDC is vicious too. ICE is a different story, but I felt like, they weren't making up reasons to keep me in there. But when I did get out of ICE, my mom came with my lawyer, and I wanted them to be there above everybody else. They were my biggest supporters. And yeah, it was surreal. My mom just cried, and she just kept looking at me, and she couldn't believe that I was home. And when I got in the car, I was like, am I really out? Like, did they really just let me out? And I kind of felt paranoid. Like, what if they just choose to lock me back up? But man, I was really free through all those battles.
Something you just shared, Justin, kind of provoked some thought. For me, I was thinking about the day I paroled, because James Willock was there for me as well. And, he's free now and he's working his tail off, and real soon he's going to be working more regularly with us. But your story about the brothers kind of being there to say their farewells and show their love and their support for you, it's instructive of why we do this work in the first place. Because those relationships, those transformations, they didn't happen like in a vacuum. They happened within a community of people who were committed to changing their lives and adding value to one another in some way and adding value to the community. So it's really a powerful thing when people start doing the right thing with their time and are supportive of one another. And, I remember those conversations with you on the yard, and I mean, the hundreds and hundreds of hours with Rich, and, those relationships are real. They're part of what make us the people we are today. So I'm just privileged to know you, and I'm praying for you that this works out in a way that's that's beneficial for the world and instructive in so many ways, because we can do it so much better, and we're going to do it together. So
yeah,
thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I think that a lot of people don't realize. I mean, maybe some people would think it is audacious to be sentenced to 82 years to life and then to file a commutation after how many years in?
It was about 12.
After about 12 years in. So yeah. I think many of our listeners, they may have a loved one in who's been in 10 years or 12 years on a 25 to life or a 40 to life. And they're asking themselves, well, maybe he ought to wait 20 years, or maybe he ought to wait this amount of time. And, there's one of our mentors, Jim Micheletti, you know him from Palma.
Yeah.
He says on a daily basis, collect evidence of hope.
Yeah.
So what got into you to say, I'm going to file a commutation after 12 years? And what's that story right there?
So initially, I didn't even know a commutation process even existed. I've heard of like a pardon process, but I only heard that you only do that as a last resort after all your appeals have been exhausted. But I remember in 2017, one of my buddies named Hugo, he had been called to the governor's office and was interviewed, and then eventually granted a commutation. And I was like, what? And when I heard that, I was like, man, like it really is possible. And, I looked at him and I looked at myself, and, a lot of the criteria were similar. Aside from the crime, he came in as a youth. I came in as a youth. He had 75 to life. I had 82 to life. He'd been out of trouble all these years. So with the same thing, I was like, man, if he could get it, I know I'm able to get it. And he had a lot of political support, a lot of influence on his behalf. I didn't have nobody, but I trusted in my integrity. I trusted in what God's able to do. And for me, I prayed and prayed and prayed. And for me, God was my biggest advocate. So I ran it by my lawyer that I'm going to file a commutation. And he said, Justin, you can't do that right now. Your appeal's still going. We're in the federal district court right now. And I told him, look, I'm going to file it. One of my friends were granted commutation, and I believe this is my way out. Wow. And he said, don't file it yet. Let me talk to you. Let me come visit you, and then we could talk it over. And he came to visit me, and he told me, you can't file it because you're still appealing your case. And I told him that I'm going to forfeit my appeal. If it doesn't go through, then that's the consequences that I'm going to live with. But that's the little window of hope that I saw, and I took it. And I knew for the past 12 years that I've been living a transformed life, that I haven't gotten no write-ups. I haven't gotten any trouble, got my GED, my college degrees. I've been doing everything required of me. And I knew my integrity, and that's what I stood on. And I just wanted a shot, an interview from the governor's office to show them that who I am today, that I'm not defined by my past as a 16-year-old, that I am a mature, at that time I was 28, that I am a mature 28-year-old. And please hear me out. And I know I don't deserve a commutation. I don't, but please see me for who I am today. And I was given that opportunity, and I maximized it. I maximized it at the parole board, and I'm going to continue to maximize my opportunity out here while I'm free.
Thank you for sharing that, Justin. You know, I always say that, Justin, you're a lot like Richie Reseda. We had him on, very talented. I know you're a pretty humble guy, so a lot of people don't know about you, the writing you do, the poetry you do. I've heard you rap. I've heard you sing, play the guitar. You're a leader in the praise and worship team, preach and teach the Bible. You can lead and you can follow, and you have a lot of value for this world. And that's something I would like to begin closing this conversation on is, you know, I hope that you can get an audience with the governor and be able to make your case and to share a little bit about the value that you bring to this world. Because for many years in there, probably half of the amount of time that you were in, Jason and I, we got to see the type of man that you are. You know, you're one of the, like, along with James Willock, one of the most transformed people that I ever met. And I know that you went through some of our workshops, those 5-day, 7-8 hour a day workshops, and you're in the front row and you're up there telling your story, and it was rough. But you did a lot of service in there with youth and in various groups, facilitating. And like you said, you got your college degree and you invested the time. What do you always say about our investments, Jay?
The investments we make in the present purchase our future.
Yeah. So what type of investments are you making right now in your community, even while on an ankle monitor, even while not knowing whether ICE will come day or night? What are you doing now? And what would you say to the governor?
I'm currently volunteering at a nonprofit called Onesimus Ministry. They work with youth prevention, prison ministry, even reentry programs. They're more geared towards the Korean community. So I've been volunteering twice a week. I love it. That's the type of work I love doing, working with people that are incarcerated, writing letters to them, cards, mailing. We have a Bible college program that we have students that attend from inside. I went through their Bible college, so I'm able to receive it, grade it, record it, mail it back. I'm continuing my social justice classes from Hartnell College. I'm a few credits away from graduating. I'm continuing my TUMI college, which is the Urban Ministry Institute, and I'll be graduating in 2 weeks. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's a bachelor level program. And I currently enrolled into LA Trade Tech to barber and cosmetology school. So I want to continue cutting hair out here. I was cutting Jason's hair inside.
Yes, he was. He cuts hair too, as a bonus.
So I want to utilize that, you know, as a vocation, as a profession. Even maybe in the future, teach youngsters how to cut hair and hire them, you know, if I'm able to stay here. I'm doing everything I can in my community, serving, being active in ministry and church, outreach. And yeah, as time allows me, I'm doing Zoom meetings, talking to different law students. My lawyer, he asked me to speak to his students from USC or Loyola. I'm speaking to them about my parole experience with the appeals. I'm speaking to other youngsters through Zoom meetings, being on a panel. So wherever I can shed light on the juvenile justice system or immigration or even the parole board, I'm more than available to speak and talk about my story. And I do want to stay here. This is all I've known. I've been here since I was 2 years old. My mother is all I have. She is all that I have. And, you know, my father passed away several years ago, and we are just here to support each other. And yeah, that was a mistake that I made years ago as a teenager. But today I'm definitely a mature man that I could give so much back to my community. And I have a lot more insight today where I can help the youngsters. I can help the people around me. I can help my peers, people who are older, you know, to inspire people that, yeah, like regardless of your circumstances, it's a mindset. It's a perspective to have. Yeah, I'm going through this right now. We all have problems, but let's go through it together. You know, I like taking on that mindset. This is like war. Let's go. Let's get what we need to get. Let's do this together, right? This battle, I believe, is fought, you know, through prayer, through worship, through community. So, you know, I'm asking, you know, the public for support and petitioning the governor for signatures, or even for the governor to even just see my situation, that I've been here all my life and my family is all I have right here, and my life is all I've known right here.
There's a verse in the Bible that says, I think it's Proverbs 21:1. It says, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. He moves it wherever he wishes.
Amen.
And we don't have a king, but there's a governor here. And like Jason said, we'll be praying for you. Thank you for coming on the Prison Post today. You definitely finished well. Didn't really like that first basketball comment. but Justin, we love you, brother.
They say the truth hurts sometimes, Rich.
Yeah, the truth hurts. I'm old, overweight. We love you. And
love you too.
Tell your mom hi for us and celebrate your birthday today as a free man.
Yes,
and,
thank you.
You know, Romans 8:28 comes to mind as well for you, you know. And you know what it says. Justin, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy birthday.
Merry Christmas.
Happy birthday, Merry Christmas.
And thank you for guys again.
All right.
Too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you for coming on the show and sharing your story so generously. We hope you get an audience with him and are able to stay, my bro.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for listening to The Prison Post, a production of the Crop Organization. We'll be sharing more stories from the world of prison reform and restorative justice, so please join us. You can listen to The Prison Post on all major podcasting platforms. Subscribe to our video cast on YouTube and like us on Facebook at The Prison Post and at Creating Restorative Opportunities and Programs.